Airlines and rideshares already charge more for trips made during busy times. But could the same thing start happening at fast food chains? Reporter Hiawatha Bray explained the greasy truth. Hiawatha, surge pricing at Wendy's, say it ain't so.
It ain't so.
Thank goodness.
Wendy's fled screaming from the idea once it got a lot of publicity. And I'm not sure they ever really meant to do it. This was a really weird situation. Back in the middle of February, they had an earnings call showing, oh, we're doing great, our profits are great. And the CEO was talking about how they're finally going to put those menu boards in every restaurant, the kind that you now see in most places like McDonald's. Wendy's is going to have them too, where it's a video screen and they can change the offerings on the menu at a moment's notice. And in passing, talking about how they were going to have them in all stores by the end of the year, he said, when we have them, we'll be able to do cool things like dynamic pricing. And everybody suddenly said, hey, wait a minute, what the heck is dynamic pricing? Well, we know what it is. We've been using it for years in the airline industry. In fact, everybody takes it for granted. Everyone on that plane, when you're on a plane, is liable to have paid an entirely different price for their tickets because a computer looks at all kinds of variables to figure out what you would be most likely to be willing to pay, and that's what they charge you. Like, they don't just look at that. They also look at things like how full is the plane? Where is it going? How close are you to the travel date? And they use all that stuff to analyze what price they charge. And no two seats may be paying the same price. That's called dynamic pricing. So when they saw that, they thought, oh my goodness, they're going to try to do the same thing. And of course, they also compared it to Uber. Uber is famous for this. When, like, for example, there's a major sporting event or a huge storm or something.
Or even certain times of the day.
Yes, simply because the whole thing is really about the number of drivers on the road relative to the number of riders. And if there's a storm, lots of people want to ride Uber. So they jack up the price mainly to get more drivers to jump into their cars and come out and work for Uber. And then the price starts to come down. People hate it, but it kind of works.
Yeah, it sounds like it might actually be good business. I mean, not necessarily good for the consumer. And if Wendy's backed off of this, can you see startup food companies adopting this type of dynamic pricing?
Oh, they already are, or at least they're trying it. There is a company, for example, out on the West Coast called Sauce. And it was actually founded by two guys out of MIT. And this is basically what they're trying to bring to basically delivery, sort of like Grubhub and DoorDash. And they're working with these companies and with small restaurants. The whole idea is the small restaurant signs up with Sauce, right? And then whenever a customer orders a delivery on a phone, it can dynamically decide what to charge that customer. And that can be based on things like what time of day it is, how busy they are, which menu item they offered, and so on. And they can do this dynamically in real time, and that levels out workforce demand for the restaurant, and it also allows them to jack up their earnings without raising everybody's prices simultaneously. So they're trying to balance all this out, and this kind of dynamic pricing, the same way Uber does it, could help them do that. And so a lot of companies are looking at it. The question is, will it really catch on with consumers and with businesses? And it's too early to say right now. But Wendy's just gave us a little peek. You know, they just opened the door and let us look into the gates of hell.
But that is a fair thing because you know, back in the day, a sandwich cost what a sandwich cost, and it was fixed, and you knew if I go to McDonald's and a Big Mac is $1.99, it's $1.99 here, or here. But if they start to do this dynamic pricing, to your point, all hell breaks loose.
Not really. I was just being silly because I don't think it's an innately bad thing, depending on how they work it out. But on the other hand, yeah, it does create this sort of weird obscurity where you're never quite sure whether you're paying the same price as somebody else. If, however, you are willing to pay that price, I mean, if you think about it, that's strictly capitalism at its purest. If you're willing to pay this price and somebody else is willing to pay a higher price, why not let them? And that's what this is really all about. And computers and AI and smartphones make it possible to do this on a person-by-person basis in a way you couldn't do it before. And so now these guys want to try it out.
Reporter Hiawatha Bray, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.